I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
Gotta strike this chord with the humble hearts, bearing heavy chains and blue collar scars. Inevitably they're gonna get their way. If you don't take that fight, take it to the grave.
Hello, and thank you for joining us again tonight. This is the Flatlander Kennel Podcast with Chris Jobman, and today we're going to be moving back to the Flowchart. And I would just advise all of you, no matter what training system that you use, these audio long forms of Chris's Flowchart, I have used them myself, and personally, I find them just to be a lot. I prefer them to like a 20-minute video, which you get from a lot of places. So I would just encourage you, no matter what system you're using, go back through the archives of our podcasts and look at those flow charts and listen to those in addition to whatever you're doing, because I think they're really, really valuable. So we're going to go back in to those today. So Chris, I know you've got a lot going on, a lot of change since we talked last time. Tell us about what's going on.
Hi, Elliott. Nice to talk to you again. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. We are full go again. Dan and I are down in Texas right now. We're on our winter trip. We got 34 dogs down here, 2 rigs. We're getting after it. Andrew's back at the kennel training the babies. And it's full steam ahead, getting ready for the Grands, getting ready for hunt tests and doing these things. And it's basically full steam ahead.
Are you missing the duck blind?
Yes, I am. But, it's so funny, though. It feels like that was forever ago when we duck hunted. It for some reason, once duck season's over and we move into this thing, it feels like it's forever ago. Like it didn't even happen a year ago, because just so much has gone on from duck season to now. It's just kind of moving and changing gears.
Yeah, my season just ended. Sunday was my last. I've been snow goose hunting. I've been on 3 different snow goose hunts.
Yeah.
So we haven't been killing a ton of them, but, lay in the blinds and kill 4 or 5, stock them, kill 5 or 6. So my waterfowl season just ended. So I
was going to try to do a snow goose hunt with a friend and client of mine, and it just never panned out. And I've never done it. you literally went on a snow goose hunt. I've never really even stalked them. Once they start coming around, we've been so busy with our dogs. I've never done it. And I would like to do it sometime. But I'm lazy and spoiled, and I'm not getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning putting out decoys. It's just not going to happen. So
yeah, I love the stalking. I do love the stalking. I'll tell you, Georgie is awesome at stalking. She's been on 10 stalks at this point. She's a little bit, she's amped, so she's kind of shaking and do a little whining. I'll have her sit down. Like if we get to crawling, the best way to do is I'll have her sit, and I belly crawl up about 30 yards. I look at her, just touch my butt, and she runs up to me, sits down. She's awesome. She's awesome at it.
You need to teach her to crawl with you.
Yeah. Any tips on that? Someone told me that their dog would crawl.
Yeah, I'm not. Those obedience trainers and stuff that can do that, they're a lot better at obedience than we are. And I know I've seen some dogs do it like as a trick, but I wouldn't know. My biggest thing, what scares me is to teach a dog to crawl, then they lay down on the sit whistle. So it scares me.
Right. Yeah, I was proud of her, though. We came up over this dike, and there was, I can't tell you how many snow geese were there, and they were within 25 yards of us. So we belly crawled to the dike. She was about 10 yards back behind me, just over the rim of the dike where she could see a little bit. And we jumped up. All these snows, we shot into them. I only shot 2 shots because we had to walk back like half a mile, and I'm like, I don't need 100 geese here. So I shot one, and I see him raining out of the sky. I shot twice. I'm like, okay, that's it. But she was steady on that. She came up to my heel and just sat right there. She was steady through the whole thing. So man, I had to give her a little shout out on that.
I'm going to tell you,
that takes a lot of strength.
Snow goose hunting does one of two things for dogs. It either ruins them and makes them crazy, or it helps them because they can see the white stuff out there a lot. And it's easy for them, and it just really builds their confidence.
Yeah. She did, and she picked up her 200th retrieve on that stock. She picked up her, which is what I wanted. I needed like 5 on the weekend just to get her to 200. So
you don't put the big old extended tubes in, huh, and go crazy on them?
No, I have no desire. I just can't live with myself. I know, honestly, I think a lot of people just trash snow geese, and I just don't believe in whatever I kill, I want to consume. So I don't want 75 snow geese in my freezer. I don't want that.
Yeah, I think I've seriously shot, this is going to sound crazy. I shot thousands of mallards, and I think I've shot 3 snow geese in my entire life.
They're incredible. I'll tell you what's so fun about the way we do it is the weekend is basically just waterfowl viewing. I want to kill 5 to 10 snow geese and view thousands and thousands and thousands of snow geese. And that's what we do.
I've never cooked them, but a buddy of mine one time made snow goose bratwurst. Mm-hmm. He mixed them with pork. They were really good, actually.
They're fine. They're fine. I mean, they're going to be on the lower end of waterfowl. But as far as I'm concerned, waterfowl kind of tastes like waterfowl. I mean, there's some that's better than the other, but if you cook it right, it's just mine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's get going on the flow chart here. I believe we ended at sit to pile. Is that correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to move forward on sit to pile. So now let's just review a little bit. Your dog's been through basic obedience. And we do it in this order at the kennels. Your dog's been through basic obedience. And when I say the flow chart, we're going to talk about teaching a kind of a dog to handle. And we'll throw in the marking stuff there, but we're going to do a whole bunch of different podcasts just on marking. But when I'm talking about the flow chart, we're talking about teaching a dog to handle, the steps it takes to teach a dog to handle. And we'll throw in marking, what you should be doing for marking at this time as well, what we do anyway. A lot of different ways to teach it, but your dog has been through basic obedience, been through collar conditioning, been through force fetch, been through 3-handed casting, been to force to pile, and has been to sit to pile. And so now the next step in the progression is what we call mini T. And throughout this whole thing, so 3-handed casting, your dog is on a long lead. Well, the dogs are basically living on a long lead from the time they're through basic obedience into basic obedience all the way through when they're up in the the T. But so now your dog's on a long lead. So and when you were doing your mini T, it's imperative for us anyway. We use like a mowed grass, like a football field, 3-inch bumpers, white bumpers so they can see. If you want to use buckets or white poles, that's fine, but we don't. So your dog's, sit to pile's done, after force to pile. Your dog is sitting really, really well. And now what we do is it's the same back pile on force to pile and sit to pile is your same back pile on your mini T and T. So you're stopping the dog on your lead. Blow the whistle, dog stopping quickly. Now, when you start doing mini T is when you're getting a really good result is when your dog is on the way to the pile, you blow the whistle, and it's basically stopping on its own, or it's really close to stopping on its own. And you get the dog stopped quickly, straighten the dog up. Now, we're going to throw a bumper over their head into the back pile. And so you're not very far away from the back pile when you're kicking your dog off. You're only 20 yards at the most, right? So it's just like 3-handed casting. We have the same sequence as we do in 3-handed casting. 3-handed casting was either, we always start with the back. So it was a right back, a left over, a right over, left back, right over, left over. So it's the same sort of sequence. So now we're basically going to mimic 3-handed casting. So you've stopped the dog on the whistle. It sits nice. It squares up. It looks at you. You still have a hold of your long lead. And if in 3-handed casting, if you started on your right back first, so you're going to throw that bumper over the dog's head, right? It's going to land in the pile. And then now it may turn around, look at it. It may do all kinds of things and be, not want to look at you. Well, if it does that, hey, pull the lead a little bit, straighten it up, and you're going to give a right straight back. Just like a 3, and then it's going to turn to the right. It's left, our right. and go back to the bottom and come back. Now, after you've done that, you're going to give a free send or two, or maybe a force or something, or light force, and then you're going to let it run for 1 or 2 times on a free send. And the reason why you're going to do that is so your dog doesn't start popping, which means it stops to look at you for direction. And 1 or 2 free sends, kick it off again, blow the sit whistle, stop. Dog's going to look at you, hopefully. Now you went to right back there. Now you're going to go throw it to the left, and you're going to get a left over. And we don't give a verbal over at this time. We just give a silent over, and 9 times out of 10, the dog's going to take it because they've seen it throw. Give a leftover, let the dog go get it, come back in. 1 or 2 free sends, maybe 1 little force to keep momentum going. Kick him off again, blow the sit whistle, stop him. Now you're going to throw a right over, correct, to the right. Give that dog a right over. Let him go get it. 1 or 2 free sends. Kick the dog off. Blow a sit whistle, sits again. Now what? You're going to throw a bumper over its head again, and you're going to give a left straight back. Let the dog go get it. Come back, 1 or 2 free sends. And that's basically your mini T. And when you're doing these things, I always give a verbal straight back when doing these, and the overs are silent at this point. I know that sounds really confusing, but and you'd be shocked on the dogs when they do this. So just say you've had a dog kind of fight you on sit to pile, and it doesn't want to sit very good, and it doesn't want to square up very good, and it's got a bunch of momentum going to the pile. It's very impulsive. It sees the bumpers. It wants to go get them. Now when you start doing this, it's almost a game to them. Eventually they learn the quicker they sit, they see you throw a bumper, they sit quicker and they stare at you and they square up because they know you're getting ready to throw. It's like almost a game. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So you have any questions on that so far? It's really kind of confusing, but honestly, it's not. So review real quick. Send the dog, stop the dog. Throw a bumper over its head, right straight back. Send the dog on free runs twice. Stop the dog, throw the bumper to the left, give her left over.
Now, do you have piles out now, or you don't have piles out? You're just throwing.
No, there's nothing on the overs. There's nothing out there on the overs at all. Now, you do have a back pile because you're sending the dog to that same pile that's been forced on and all that 3 and a casting. So you do have a back pile.
So on the free send, are you throwing it, or are you just sending them to the pile?
I'm just sending them to the pile, like you're forcing the dog to the pile.
And
right?
You said you could lightly nick them.
Yes, if they start guessing, like stopping to the whistle, they start guessing that, you can add force. So your dog should be forced to pile relatively good before you're doing this. It should be thorough and good. Right. So, yeah, so if you start seeing them pop in or something like that, you can force them. Mm-hmm. And that's a good point. There's nothing on the over piles. Because if you have the over piles out right now, the dog is really if you're running a T, they're right, want to go to the right, want to go left, they want to go right. It confuses them, right? So, but you do have a back pile out, and they're white bumpers. They can see them. So you're taking the confusion out. You're making it very simple, very plain form, and going. Okay?
Yep.
So, right back, left over, right over, left back. And you can do this 1 or 2 sequences or 3 sequences in a session, depending on how hot it is, depending how much your dog likes to work, those sort of things, right? And this mini T, it doesn't take very long. And we don't usually wait until the dog is perfectly sitting, like absolutely perfect to the sit whistle. We want them to know the concept. We want them to be shutting it down, and we want them to be sitting. But they don't have to become to a sliding stop and be absolutely perfect. Because what we've found over the years is they actually learn sit to pile really quick once you start adding this. If you've done all your basics before you get to this stage, the dog is collar conditioned properly. It's got good obedience. Everything is, they know turn to the right, turn to the left, overs, they know all that stuff. This goes actually pretty well, and it's almost a game to them, so they stop even quicker and pay attention to you because they can't wait to watch you throw something. The biggest problem I've seen is dogs, when you do that, if the dogs don't have good obedience and they're not looking at you, they just want to break. As soon as you throw that bumper, they want to break. But that's why you have the long lead. And if they turn the wrong way, they try to break, you have control of them, right? So that's a major, major thing, is to have that long lead on you.
So let me ask this question. The overall picture of things, Once you have gone into the e-collar force fetch, what happened? Where are you at as far as throwing bumpers, throwing marks through all this process? Are you doing that as well as this? And are you working on the steady aspect? Or are you just staying away from all basic bumper work other
As
than
far
this?
as we don't throw bumpers for marks. So when you're into this point right now, we are teaching the dog to run really nice singles. Depending on the time of the year, they're running good. I call them therapy marks, simple singles. And what you don't want to do, and you can do it if you have throwers, but wingers are really hard to do. I like to run nice marks, nice singles, land in water. Get their going therapy marks. What I don't like to do with some of these dogs is if you see your dog that struggles in the handling field and doing your basic pile work like this, and say it's getting down, it's losing a little bit of confidence, it's just mentally kind of really stressed out. The last thing you want to do is go out in the field and make the marks really, really hard too. So they're getting in trouble for marking. They can't find the bird. Then now there's nothing fun in the dog's life. Pile work's not very fun. Marking's not very fun. It all just kind of sucks and they hate it. So, but if you have a dog that, is struggling in the handling field and is going through the pile work, and you can see it mentally kind of starting to cave in on you, when you run your marks, make them very simple. Let them go get them. Just run, go get them, have fun, the whole deal. Now, if you have a dog that's flying through the pile work, loves to do pile work, loves to work, now you can maybe challenge those dogs a little bit more on your marking. Maybe you can start teaching them taut doubles, longer singles. We are not into cheating singles or anything like that yet because they don't have the background, the tools to do that, right? So you're looking at very simple, nice, you can go as long as you want, but I wouldn't worry about cheating, that sort of thing. You just go get them type of deals,
So for us amateur guys that we love to have bumpers in our hands and just throw them as part of our energy, getting the energy out of the dog. You get home from work, you go out
the
the
energy
backyard.
out of the dog or the energy out of you.
Well, I can tell you what, if my dog is on the couch 3 or 4 days and I don't like today, I just went out with a tennis ball and threw like 15 just because I see her on the couch looking at me and like, hey, I've got to run. And so I'm just trying to run her a little bit. For guys that during this process, they get home from work, they want to exercise their dog a little bit. Is it okay just to have a bumper, throw it? And if so, are we working on steady during that time?
So I like when we do this, I don't want the dogs so pile work is very mentally challenging. It's mentally taxing on a lot of dogs. Certain breeds don't like it, so you have to adjust to those sort of things, right? I like a dog to be rested, like in the kennel or a crate or wherever they're at. I want them to be rested. So when they come out to do pile work, I like to do that first. I like to get that going first because if you do marks first, where you start to throw fun bumpers, you're doing those sort of things, you're already wearing the dog out just a little bit, and they're not mentally and physically as crisp, right? Mm-hmm. So when you get them out of the kennel, they want to work. So that's when I like to do my pile work and my yard work. When we get out there, I always, it's a good point, I always throw 2 or 3 fun bumpers without being steady, but they're dragging the long lead. I throw 2 or 3 fun bumpers into that pile that they're going to run.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
See what I mean? I don't want them running around the house in the backyard, digging holes and peeing on the fence. And, they're just doing whatever the hell they feel like. They're using their energy and their mind all day, basically, just do whatever the hell they feel like. I want them to be rested, focused, and ready to go. So when you get them out of the kennel, they want to work.
All right. Okay.
Right? So I would save their energy and their mental state to do this. If you want to run on, what I like to do, at the kennel, here's how it works at the kennel. In the mornings, when it's cooler, the dogs do their yard work first. They do all their yard work first, their handling first, all that stuff first. Once they're done with that, so we want them mentally fresh, physically fresh, and that sort of thing. And then once they're done with that, then in the afternoons or when they're done, they move out to run marks. Mm-hmm. So that's their daily training. Yard work in the mornings, afternoon marks.
Gotcha.
So we want them dogs fresh. All right. So now everybody's like, okay, when's the double T? So years and years ago, and you guys might beat me up over this thing, I really don't care. But I ran the double T for years. I did the mini T, then I did the T, then I built the double T. I did all those things. And I'm sitting there thinking about it for a long time, and a buddy of mine never did. He goes, "We don't run the double T." I said, "You don't?" And you understand this is 20 years ago. And he's like, "I don't." I said, "No." I said, "But your dog's handled really, really good." He goes, "Exactly." So I thought about it, and I'm on my 24th year right now. So I haven't been running the double T for probably 20 years. And I have found just doing the T, as long as you do your yard work correctly and just doing the T, that has not hurt my dog's handling ability one bit. We dropped the double T a year, like 20 years ago, and I have not looked back.
Can you give just a real quick descriptor of what the double T is?
The double T is basically your T pattern, but it has, instead of one leg, one intersection to stop, there's two.
Mm-hmm.
There's two. So we don't do the double T. If you want to do the double T, totally fine. We did even the inverted double T where on the way back, I did all those sort of things just because I thought I saw it, read it in a book. So I just did it. Mm-hmm. Well, we don't do the double T. If you do the double T, totally fine by you, but we don't.
And the invert is casting them when they have something in their mouth.
Yeah, and we call that run by, which we're getting to.
Mm-hmm.
But the inverted double T, and there was all kinds of crazy, diagrams I saw in a book one time. And I thought, I'm gonna do all of these and see what happens. And it's not a great thing to do because you're just overworking that dog mentally when they really don't need to be. So now we've built the mini T, right? We're stopping them to the whistle. Now we're going to want to move into the T. And what I mean by that is once the dog is stopping on its own really well in the mini T, now you want to run the T. So we've been throwing them to the sides. We've been throwing on the over. So now we move back. We stay about 20 yards to start with, right? And let's just say at 10 yards is the intersection. I'm going to just throw easy numbers. 10 yards is the intersection. They can see the back pile. Now you're going to take a white bumper and you're going to throw it to the right and to the left. That's their overs. Okay. And you're not going to get it really, really close. So let's just say you've got a 20-yard back pile and your intersection is at 10 yards. Maybe you're at 30 yards. It doesn't really matter, but your intersection is split. So if you're 20 yards, your intersection is at 10. If you're 30 yards, your intersection is at 15. But what you don't want to do is put your over bumpers at 5 yards offline. That's too close. You want them to be 15 yards offline, left and right, or more, right? But they have to be able to see them. That's the goal. Because the thing about it is your dog needs to be able to see those from the line. Because you're teaching your dog to run to that back pile where you're sending them not where they want to go because they want to go over there. Okay? So now you got bumpers on your right and your left, and it's only one bumper. That's all you got is one bumper on the right and the left, and you have multiple bumpers in the back pile. So I think it's 5 bumpers on the back pile, one on the right, one on the left. So they know to stop to a whistle, they know to look at you, and they know how to cast. So now let's just say you're at 30 yards, your intersection's at 15 yards, your right and left overs are 15 yards off the center line, off your line. Dog can see it, but it's long enough away that if your dog veers off and tries to run to it, you have the long lead on. You stop them. If they try to run off to the right or left, you stop them to call them back and resend and move up, maybe resend. So now we always have the same sequence. We taught the same sequence in 3-handed casting. We've taught the same sequence in mini T. So if you've already started with a right back, so now we're side sending like we have before. We side send, kick them off, free run. The first run is a free run. And I've thrown a couple fun bumpers into the back pile to establish the back pile. Same back pile they ran in all these drills. Same back pile, same location. We've a couple free runs, a couple fun bumpers, get them going. So now we're going to kick them off and send them to the back pile. Hopefully they run straight to the back pile, pick up a bumper, come back. If they veer off right or left, you stop them, recall them. No, pull them back with the lead. Walk up a little bit, kick them off again, okay? If you struggle with that and your dog is super impulsive, wants to go right or left, it's okay to throw a bumper into the back pile. Say, oh, yeah, that's where I want to go. Then they go.
And you're using the command back to release them on this one? Okay.
Dead bird, back. Make it look out there. Look at, if they're not focusing, if they're looking left on the left pile, or left bumper, right bumper, they're just bugging. They're looking left, looking right, looking left. It's okay to move up a little bit and throw a bumper into the pile. It's totally fine. Okay.
Are you working on their body alignment during this time as well, and making sure they're
all
squared up?
All of it. Make sure they're squared up, nose and tail, squared up, looking at it, concentrated on it. Do whatever you've got to do to make them focus on the back pile. Okay?
Hand overhead on this at this point?
Depends on the dog. There are some dogs that at this point in time, they're starting to get really mentally worn out. And some of these dogs have some avoidance issues. And if your dog, let's just say you did it and forced a pile, you put your hand down. I think we discussed this a little bit. You put your hand down, the dog looks up at your hand, get your hand out of there. We can add the hand if you want to later. But right now, if the dog is looking up at your hand instead of the back pile, that's a form of avoidance, and get your hand out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Your dog's doing well. It's all going well. He's focused on the back pile. You kick him off back. Free run, back pile, pick up a bumper, come back. Now, what's our next sequence? So now we go and we stop them at the intersection. Hopefully they stop quickly because you've been working on it. Hopefully they stop quickly. If they don't stop quickly, stop them with a rope. But hopefully they stop quickly. If they don't stop quickly, they're big loopy left and loopy right, then you've missed something. You better back up, you better slow down, you better simplify. Okay? But let's just say they stop quickly. They're looking at you. What's their cast? The first cast you've always given them now through the entire sequence of all this thing, it's a right straight back. Verbal, right straight back. Now, when they turn, they may look over there at our right bumper, their left. Okay? That's why in the mini T there wasn't a bumper over there. We threw it over there. Now there's all this, suction, I guess it would be, to our right, their left. So now you stop them. You give them a right verbal back because right verbal means drive, goes straight back. So that's what we've been trying to communicate this to these dogs the entire time. That's why in three-handed casting, we give a verbal straight back. And our overs were silent. So we may have to use some verbals to get them to move on the overs. But we've slowly, if you remember, we've slowly got rid of all your verbals. That's why I said in the mini T, silent overs. Mm-hmm. Okay? Silent casting means change of direction. Verbal casting means drive. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we have communicated with this dog throughout this entire process. Verbal straight back means turn and go. Overs are silent, which means change of direction. So now we have all this communication we've been trying to teach them. So now you're going to give them a right straight back. They may go right straight over because when they turn, they see that bumper. They're impulsive. And you have the long lead. That's why you have the long lead. No. You stop them. You bring them back to the intersection, right? You bring them back. You walk away from them just a little bit. Maybe even move to the right. Scooch up to them a little bit. Maybe block that. You give them a right verbal back to remind them, no, that means go straight back. Okay? Making sense so far?
Yeah, and the e-collar has nothing to do with this. It's not in use here at all?
No, this is more of a teaching thing. The only time I'm going to really use an e-collar at this point is no-goes, something like that. I wouldn't even probably use an e-collar for a really bad whistle set at this point if they're really being impulsive and they want to go to the left or right. Probably when you turn them, they want to just dart over there. Because you got to understand something. In this dog's brain, especially an impulsive dog, they've been forced to these bumpers. They've been forced to pile. They've had force. They've down the line. So some of these dogs, if they have a slow whistle sit and you don't have a hold of that leash, that long lead, and you blow the whistle and they don't stop and you give them a nick, they may look at that bumper and think, I'm getting forced, and just run as fast as possible in the wrong way. See what I'm saying? So
if they're sitting, if they're loopy sitting, how do you just pull on the cord if they're loopy sitting, or how do you address that here?
Pull on the cord.
Just pop it. Just
like it has been. Like I told you, if it's got a loopy sit, you just pop it.
Okay.
And I said, if you have a loopy sit in this process, then you're in deep trouble. So yeah, if you have a crappy loopy sit, at this point, you've missed something. Okay? That's why I just said, this shouldn't be a big issue. This should be relatively easy. This shouldn't be a big issue. If you got really big loopy sits, it's one of two things. The dog is really impulsive and it's just kind of excited at the moment, or you have not done sit to pile good enough.
So if you have that, what do? Do you go back to sit to pile?
It depends on how you read it. If it's just that instance, you can use the leash, the long lead, to stop them a lot quicker. If that's what it is. If it gets to be a habit, then you have not done it good enough. You better go back.
Okay.
Just hit the pile and then move forward again.
Try to address it with the leash. If over time, if you just I can't get it fixed.
Yeah, I can't get it. You don't want to give a ton. I don't like to give a ton of collar pressure right here. Not a ton, but you can give a nicker here or two on the sit. But be careful because they may run to that bumper thing and they're being forced. And if you don't have a good sit here, you better address it right now. You either do one or two things. You either sit them down with a long lead in the tee, or you go back to sit the pile just a little bit, maybe hit mini tee again, and then we come back to it. So don't just it'll work itself out down the road. Be really careful of that because sometimes it doesn't, and you're fighting it the entire time. It's a nightmare. Okay, so we've set on the back pile, and it's all gone well. You set them on again. You stop them at the intersection, and you gave them a right straight back. Verbal, right straight back. And it all went well. Dog turned, went straight back to the right. Set them another free send, and then you stop them at the intersection. Now you give them a left over, and hopefully it sees the bumper out there, okay, that you've thrown over, that's already over there. It was already established. It's already over there. Been there a ton of times. Been there in three-handed casting. Been there in the mini tee. Been there a ton of times. If the dog doesn't move because it's confused, it's just going to do one of two things, three things. Hopefully it sees the bumper. You give an angle, or an over, and I don't like to say over. If you want to, you go over. If you get them to move, or say their name, just to get them to move, but get rid of that as quickly as you can. Or it's going to turn and burn and try to go straight back to the back pile because it's been forced. That's where it wants to go. You have the long lead to stop that dog, shut it down, pull it back, square it up, and close the gap, give them over to the pile, to the left. If the dog still doesn't move, maybe throw a bumper over there because it's a little bit confused. Throw a bumper over there, let him go get it, okay? And then give him a free run. If you had to throw a bumper over there, give him a free run, stop him again, give him that same leftover, then hopefully they'll go over and get it. If you didn't have to throw a bumper, give him a free run, stop him again at the middle intersection. After your free run, give him another one, stop in the middle intersection. Now you're going to give him a right over to the one that's already sitting over there. You're going to pick that up to the right. Okay. Then you're going to give him a free run. Then you're going to stop in the middle section. You're going to give him a left straight verbal back. This is the reason why we don't have multiple bumpers at your over piles, because you're giving a left straight back. And a lot of times those dogs will turn. They've already been over there now because you just did your left over. They're going to turn and want to go straight left, so there's more bumpers. Now you're communicating with the dog. There's nothing over there to get. There's nothing to look at. You're going to give a left straight verbal back, go back to the back pile. Then you're going to give another free run. Then you're going to stop again at the intersection. You're going to give a right verbal back. You're going to work on both of your backs at the end. There's nothing on the right because you've already picked it up. And then you're going to give them a couple free runs and you're done. That sounds super confusing. Hope it doesn't.
No, I don't think so.
It's the same exact pattern as you taught three-handed casting. It's the same exact sequence and pattern that you taught in mini T. So let's review. Kick the dog. This is your T. Long lead still. And you're going to keep them on the long lead until they're running the T really, really well. Then once they're running it really, really well, they're not making mistakes. They're doing a good job of sitting to the whistle. They're squaring up. They're taking your casts. They're doing a really nice job. Then you're going to take the long lead off and take the training wheels off, and off you go. Okay, so here's the sequence. Free run, sit in the intersection, right straight verbal back. Free run, sit at the intersection, left silent over. Free run, sit at the intersection, right silent over. Free run, sit at the intersection, left straight back. Free run, sit at the intersection, right straight back, free run. you have worked on every single cast that you've taught that dog in previous drills. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. You're going to see some of the situations that you're going to see, some of the problems that you're going to have with these dogs. Maybe they start popping, okay? They're anticipating the sit whistle. They're anticipating stopping. They're anticipating, so they start popping at the middle intersection, okay? You can force this dog in route if you want to. This is why we've always forced up, when we talk about force to pile, we've forced up and down the entire line in different locations, not just the intersections. So if that dog is popping, let's just say at the intersection, getting ready for a whistle, you kick him off, and when the dog is halfway between you and the intersection, maybe you force them right there through the intersection into the pile. Okay? You can do that. If you see your dog doing that, give them more free runs and or force to piles in between on your free runs. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to read your dog. You have to read if you're losing momentum, if they're popping, if they're bugging. At any point in time in this, if you start seeing confusion, that sort of thing, you got to be really, really careful because people want to fly through the tee. They want to fly through all this stuff because they don't think it's very fun. I think it's actually a really pretty good time because this is where you start seeing your dog really learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people want to fly through this and get to run blind retrieves. Well, if you don't do this right, you're in deep, deep, deep trouble. You're going to have major issues, not sitting to the whistle very good, loopy sits, not casting worth a damn. I mean, not looking at you, take your time and do this, okay? Now, once that's all done, we do a thing called run by. I don't even know what the actual term of it. I just call it run by. And what we do here, it's actually really pretty simple. And we start doing it once the dog is running the tee really well without dragging a long lead. It's doing it on its own. It's sitting. It's doing all those things. And you may be moving back we like to move back to about 40 yards. Once the dog is running the tee, we start gradually moving back. When you move back, that makes your angles to the side piles tighter. So there's a little bit more suction. They can see them a little bit better. Move back to like 40 yards, and your intersection's at 20, okay? And once they're good at that, you're just going to send them to the back pile. You're still going to run the tee, okay? How I like to do it is send them back to the back pile, stop them. You give a right straight back. I always do a run by when the dog is coming back with a free run. So you're just going to run the tee. Send them back to the back pile. Next one is stop in the intersection, give them a right straight back, free run, stop in the intersection, maybe give them a left. And now when the dog is returning with the bumper in their mouth, you're going to give them a left over, silent over, and you're going to have a little bit of confusion right here. You might have to throw one over there, okay? But there should be a bumper over there because you haven't picked it up yet. On the way back, stop them, cast them with the bumper in their mouth, let them run all the way out to that bumper on the left, and not pick it up and switch. But when they get out there, go, hey, good God, boy, and you call them back in. And you keep doing that. On their free runs, you're trying to cast them through the tee with a bumper in their mouth, okay? When they come back in and stop them, right straight back, left straight back, you're trying to cast them through the tee on their return with the bumper. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, and you can make your own sequence if you want to. We're just looking for a dog when they're returning just to stop, cast, maybe go all the way to the left, stop, go all the way across in front of you like you're swimming by, all the way across in front of you to the back, stop, maybe left angle. You're just casting this dog all over the place in the tee with a bumper in their mouth. Right. And they learn how to handle with their bumper mouth. If you do this is going to help you in swim by immensely because now the dog understands how to stop with a bumper in their mouth, listen to you, and look at you and cast. Is that at all making sense?
Yep, I think we've got it.
Okay. Do you have any questions? That was pretty.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think. I think it's, people listen to this and go through step by step. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this, guys, and you have follow-up questions, come over to the Facebook group, Flatlander Kennels Podcast, and that's where you put them. And there people will interact with it, and we can talk about it more so on any of these flow charts if there's questions. And also, if
Yeah.
you're listening on Spotify, actually, you can ask questions through the comments on Spotify as well, and I monitor those.
Yeah, and that sounds kind of confusing, and to me in my brain, it is easy because I've done it for so long. But just go slow. Make sure you've done all the steps, and then, like I said, it's the same sequence as you've been teaching this dog in the same location this dog's entire life so far. So
yeah,
that is it for basically the mini T and run by. It's kind of all one big thing. And the mini T and the T and the run by, they're done when they're done. There's no set. This should take you a week. This should take you 2 weeks. This should take you 3 weeks. There's no set time frame. It's done when it's done. And I promise you, if you push yourself through this and you rush through this, you're going to have major, major problems when you start getting in the swim by and pattern blinds. You're going to have loopy sits. You're going to have avoidance issues. You're going to have all these issues. So be very careful not to push through this and make sure you do a very thorough job. And you want to make sure that if your dog is stressed out, like I said before, throw lots of therapy marks, fun marks, go get them. Keep a very good balance in here. And when I say that, don't overdo all your handling and don't throw marks. So make sure you throw marks while you're doing your handling. Don't overdo one or the other, because if you have a dog that kind of sour on the handling and the structure of teaching a dog, that you start getting this to be sour, just don't beat it in their brain and make them super sour about all this and not throw them marks. If you have to, stop the handling a little bit, go back, if you could do one of two things, throw some marks, do some handling, throw some marks, okay? Don't get out of balance where all you're doing is handling, because you're going to melt them down mentally.
And we have talked about this before. If you find yourself getting mad and frustrated, you need to remember you're the one that's taking your dog through this process. And
Correct.
If your dog has good breeding and has lines, and it's you. If your dog's not performing properly, it's probably you. And once I realized that, honestly, Chris, I used to get really frustrated at my previous dog. And once I realized if my dog's not doing this right, it's me, not that. It took all of my frustration and anger. It just dissipated it, because now this is me. I'm training the dog, but if this dog fails, it's because I've done something along around the process. And if you guys are getting mad and yelling at your dog and losing your mind, that's not going to help. Stop and take a break, because that's not productive.
Yeah, for sure. And this is. And I know what ends up happening, a lot of those things. Everybody has their little training buddies and little training groups, that sort of thing on the weekends. And let's just say your dog is in, yard work a lot of times. In training groups, you're not going to go on a Saturday and do the T with your training group. You want to go run marks. You want to do all that sort of fun stuff. Well, now all the other dogs are running blinds or running marks, and you're still in the T. And, let's just see what happens out here. Let's just try to run this little blind. We're not quite done with the T yet. Let's just try to run this on Saturday. But in your training group, don't do that. If you want to go to a training group, run your marks, get out of there, go run your pattern, go run your yard work. So don't try to rush this. I've seen it happen 1,000 times. People always ask me, hey, my dog's not running very good blinds. What do I do? Well, have you run the T yet? Well, we sort of did the T. I mean, what do you mean you sort of did the T? Like, did you do pattern blinds? What kind of? But no, so you didn't finish the T. Did you do force to pile? Well, he ran to the pile. Oh, so you didn't force. So,
right.
It just ends up being a nightmare, because nobody wants to put this work in to do this. Nobody wants to do the work to do this to have a great dog. They just want to instantly have a great dog. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. So if you guys got any questions on the T, mini T, whatever, throw it on the Facebook page. I'll try to answer as best I can. Hopefully this summer we're going to do our YouTube series on all this stuff, so you can match all this stuff to a video to show you all that stuff. So, Elliott, should we do a couple questions? Unless you have anything more on the T.
I think we're ready to move to the questions section.
All right, let's do a couple here. I'm gonna let you pick them. I'm in Texas. I don't have a printer, so.
If I pick them, I'm going to pick the ones that say Elliott Snyder above them.
Then go for it.
All right. So we're back into training now. Well, I should say it's not every day. On the weekends, we've been doing some really formal training. And I've worked with a couple of guys that have had some questions. And so I thought I wanted to bring them to you, Chris. So the first one says that a friend of mine got his dog back from a trainer. So he had this dog at an actual trainer, taking it through the process. And he came in feeling like his dog was about the started level. The dog's just over a year old. And he says when he's running blinds and adds collar pressure, its dog is actually just laying down and refusing to continue. I didn't see the behavior because he didn't run the blinds there. Because I said, if you know your dog's going to fail, don't run these blinds. But so he was struggling with what to do when his dog's just laying down on the collar pressure.
So you just said the dog is like, so the dog is just over a year old. What has the dog done? Is it done? That I don't. It's hard to do this.
He's taken. My understanding is that the dog at the trainer, went through. I don't know exactly where he got the dog to, but he had been through e-collar, force fetch. I'm assuming he had done force to pile and all. Would be my assumption. I didn't ask, but if the dog's a year and coming back from the trainer, I would have thought that he would have gotten through the things that we've just been talking about.
Not a chance. Let's just say that dog is. You said just over a year old. Let's just say that dog's 13 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say that dog went to the trainer at 6 months old. And this can happen with other trainers. They can get through it really quickly. They can push, go, and get some of this done. But let's just say the dog went to the dog at 6 months old. In our program, that dog is, let's just say, the 13 months old. That dog would have had to be obedience, collar conditioned, force fetched, 3-handed casting, force to pile, sit to pile, mini T, run by, water force, water T, swim by, D cheat, pattern blinds, simple cold blinds, land on water.
So he just didn't get there.
They did that in 7 months, 6 months.
Well, hey, Chris, according to guys on Facebook and on the internet, you can get through all that in 3 months.
Yep, you can.
By age 3 months.
I understand. I get that. And if you believe that, that's great. If you want to push them that quick, that's great. I can promise you I'm not going to do that because I'm not in it for a dog at, I'm in it for the long haul of what you have at 6 years old, not what you have at a year and a half old. And mental stability is of utmost importance when it comes to this. So it would be really hard to know what that dog has been through. So if this dog is running blinds, let's just say the dog is running cold blinds, and you add collar pressure and the dog sits down and refuses to continue. That dog is majorly confused by either his new handler, which is his owner, or he's been pushed way too hard and he's completely confused and scared to death to make a mistake. At least the dog is sits down, but he refuses to move, refuses to continue. The dog is scared to make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
If that guy just got that dog back from a trainer, he needs to call that trainer and say, hey, what do I need to do? Because I can't tell him that I have no idea what the dog has been. I have no clue.
So call your trainer and make sure you know exactly where he's gotten that dog to. So it may be that, hey, I didn't get the dog that far. Don't even be doing that.
Correct. Be the answer. And I can't even give him advice because I have no clue.
Right.
I got no idea. Is the dog, just over a year old? Does that mean it's 13 months? Does it mean it's 19 months? Does it mean I have no idea who trained it? I don't know the steps.
Yeah.
He needs to talk to that trainer and say, hey, what actually have you done? And if the guy says, no, he was running cold blinds when I had him, he needs to go back with that trainer, with that dog, and say, hey, show me.
Yeah.
Show me how to do this. And that's what he needs to do.
I think that's good. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. I think that's a good answer. The next one is actually my friend, former podcast partner, Jordan Furman. You met him before on the podcast. He's got a new dog, and this dog is about a year old, and he's just getting it through. He decided not to train through hunting season because he knew he couldn't be consistent. So he just did behavior basics and stuff. But now the season's over. He's taking it through e-collar, force fetch, and so now he's to the stage of he's forcing the dog to. I think what he's working on is like force into place. He's going through Freddie's system, and Freddie has a step of. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I take that back. I forget what I said. He's in e-collar conditioning right now. So he is not force fetched. And in Freddie's e-collar conditioning, one of it is forcing the dog to a stand to place. So you force the dog to you and then away from you with Freddy's system.
Okay.
And the dog goes to place just fine on his own without any pressure. Once he started adding pressure, the dog started going up to the stand. It's like one of those just stand with legs on it, and starts going under the stand instead of jumping on when he started adding pressure. And Freddy's having him given the videos telling him to give continuous pressure to the stand, and the dog's running up the stand and crawling under it. And then now that he's taking the pressure off, because I told him, I said, take the pressure off, and tell me if I was wrong in telling this, but and just get the dog back into going to the stand, and maybe give him some nicks on the way. But even now, without the pressure, the dog's about every fifth or sixth attempt is going under the stand and not up on it.
So I've not really watched. I know Freddie's got a really good system, but so at what point in collar conditioning is this going to the stand? Is this after teaching the dog to sit with collar conditioning? Is it after talking to
Yes,
ear?
I believe so. You're sit and heel, and I think you're forcing them to you when you call them. And then from that point you go to because you've done a lot of place work in his system really early. He has him doing place work.
So did he do all the place work in his system with treats and everything?
There's no treats involved, but he did do the place work.
He needs to do the treats. Because here's the thing. That dog is confused of a place, like his place, a place should be, when you start these baby dogs we do like treats, we teach them a place, they get up on the deal with a treat, you give them a treat, get back on it. We teach that place as a good place to be. That's a fun, good, safe place, right?
Right.
So at some point, this dog has got confused that place board or that place is not a good place. So I don't know if Jordan gave him pressure at the wrong time when he was jumping up on the platform. If when he hit his feet on there, he gave him pressure and he didn't have good timing. So now that dog thinks the top of that's dangerous.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that's what I told him.
So he needs to make that when you can even do this with pressure. So if that dog runs up there and jumps up there and does a good job, go over there. And I would treat train this. This is going to sound crazy, but I would treat train this dog to that place. Let them know that that's a good place to be. That's a safe place. It's a good place. Now, once he understands that, you can force him to that place if that's what you want to do, but make damn sure that your timing is really good. And before he gets up on that place, take your pressure off, because you don't want. It's just like water force we're about to get into. When they hit that water, it's a safe place. When they hit that platform, it's a safe place. If your timing's off and you make that platform quote unquote hot, right? That's not a good thing. Another thing is if it's crawling under the stand, make it so that dog can't crawl under the stand.
Just drop it to the ground.
Drop it all the way ground.
Yeah.
Don't give him a place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Don't give him a place to go.
Yeah.
So introduce the treats, I think, again, to the place. Make it a good place. You can even force them, and when they do a good job, and you're good with your timing, and they do a good job, and they jump up there, go ahead and give them a treat. Okay? Now you're eventually going to wean them off those treats, and when they run up there, and they get on there with good timing, they get up there really happy, then your treat turns into like a nice little pet, attaboy, that sort of thing. Not overly do it, but attaboy. Now it's realized, hey, this is a good place to be.
Yeah.
But that's what I would do. Step one, lower that thing down. Lower it down. Don't give them the place to hide. Step two, get up there, treats without pressure. Now you can wear the e-collar, but no pressure. Get up there, give them a treat. Once you're doing that good, step three, force them to the deal, jump up there, get on the place, give them a treat. Step four, force them up there, get rid of the treat, give them an attaboy, a pet. That's their treat. Does that make sense?
Yes. And
make that place a good, safe place.
What are your thoughts on the continuous pressure versus just the nicks in this process?
Continuous is good for certain things, and that's an okay thing to do. But when you do that, you got to understand something, that if your timing isn't off at all, and you're giving them collar pressure when they're jumping up there and they hit that thing, you're going to have this problem. This is just like if you go back and review our force to pile. I don't use continuous and force to pile. I force to pile en route. And when they get close to the pile, our first set of forcing is, when they're about 3/4 of the pile, I force them there and I force them into the pile with a continuous nick. Remember we called that?
Yep.
This is what I would do on this too. I would go do like maybe a continuous nick en route, right?
Just pop.
I call it continuous. I just hold a nick down 1 or 2 seconds, then force them up on there. I don't like to hold it.
Yeah.
I personally don't like, I'm not saying afraid is not the right way to do it. This is just how I do it. I don't like continuous pressure from my side all the way there. I want them running there because they want to run up there, but then I force them like a continuous nick, like I told you, and just get them up there. Instead of that way, they're not worried. They're like leaving your side. They're going ow, 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 ow until they get there. They're more worried about the pressure. They don't like that. They're running. Let's say they're running 5 or 10 yards to that place. Now they're worried about that pressure the entire way. Yeah. Well, if they've been treat trained like they're as puppies, like they're properly supposed to do on a place, they're running there because they want to be there, right? And now instead of saying place or whatever you're given, they're not running through that pressure, continuous pressure the entire way, making it miserable to run there. They're just running because they're having fun. Now you give them a little bit of pressure with continuous nick, and then they jump up there and they're safe. You know what I mean? It's a very different mindset to me when they do that, right? So I would, like I said, my steps, I would probably, go back to doing that sort of thing. And phrase deals works great with a continuous pressure, but at some point this dog is being confused. And he's got avoidance, and he thinks going under it is the place to go. Lower that thing down, introduce treats, then go back to your forcing and make sure that he understands that that's a good place to be.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and call this. We've got some more questions, and we're going to get to probably on the next episode.
Yep.
So I think all that's really, really good stuff. Again, everyone, all these flowcharts are in all of the episodes. If you have any questions, head over to that Facebook and hit us up over there. I'm keeping a master list, and we do go through the questions, and then I delete them. So join us over there.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. See everybody at the line. Take that in.
Gotta strike this chord with the humble hearts, bearing heavy chains and blue collar scars.